Hello there, hello there, hello there. I am so excited to have this conversation today. So we are diving into kind of a hot button topic, I guess we could say. Hot button because it's so important to actually have this conversation. And I had it this morning with my girlfriend. And so today we're going to talk about you can't get what you don't ask for. And I don't remember how this actually came about when I was talking with my girlfriend this morning, but we started to chat about it, and it is so apparent because she said, well, it took you, a lot of nerve to get up and ask for that. She said, but a man wouldn't have even blinked asking that question. And I thought, oh, she's so right. She's so right. Why is it that women typically have a harder time asking for what they want? Prime example, right? My 13-year-old daughter, last year, she turned 13 in October, and she was really trying to figure out what she wanted for her birthday. And it wasn't, after some initial prodding, it wasn't that she didn't know what she wanted for her birthday. It was that she didn't want to ask and have me say no. And that is the thing that trips us up more than anything else, especially as women. And this isn't all women, but I know a lot of women that I speak to that have the same kind of thing, that we would much rather not ask than to ask and have somebody disappoint us, right? Like, we would much rather be disappointed in ourselves and our own ability than to have somebody else disappoint us. And that is just not gonna work. I mean, you're gonna end up playing a very small life if you continue to go that way. If you are so terrified of somebody saying no to you, you're going to continue to be disappointed. So the very thing that you're trying to avoid is the thing that you're actually living out, right? So I'll never forget this. When I was probably a sophomore in high school, I was very much into designer brands. I love them. My brother used to always say, you have champagne taste on a juice box budget. Maybe you should change your taste. And I was like, maybe I should change my budget. And so I loved, and I had asked for this one particular sweater from Abercrombie & Fitch. And if you know anything about Abercrombie & Fitch, their clothes they're expensive. I worked there in college for the discount so that I could have the clothes at a cheaper price, right? And so there was one sweater that I asked for Christmas. It was the only thing I asked for because I thought, if I don't ask for anything else, then my mother has to get me this sweater. It was the only thing I wanted. I didn't care if there were any other gifts under the tree. All I wanted was this sweater. And on Christmas morning, as we're opening up gifts, I'm like sizing up the boxes, and I'm like, okay, this could be a sweater box. This could be a sweater box, right? So I'm like amping up the excitement with each box, being like, oh, it's not, but it could be the next one, right? And like really getting into it. None of the boxes that I opened that Christmas morning were the sweater that I asked for. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it caused me to stop asking for what I wanted, because I asked for it. I had the courage to ask for it, because I had always been told growing up, that's not a need, it's a want. We're focused on needs right now. We're not worried about what you want. And so I had built up the courage to finally ask for something that I wanted. I didn't need the sweater. I was gonna be fine without the sweater, but I really wanted the sweater. And when I didn't get that sweater on Christmas Day, I translated it in my little teenage brain that I shouldn't ask for what I want because I'm going to be disappointed anyways. So I might as well not ask for fear that somebody else is going to disappoint me. And so I stopped really asking for what I wanted at that point. I was fairly mediocre. I wasn't the top of the line student. I wasn't the top track runner. I was pretty good. I was above average for those things, but I certainly wasn't giving it my all because I just didn't really care that much, right? Like, it was kind of like I was really excited about this balloon and someone like came through and like popped my balloon on me, right? But this translated into a lot of different areas of my life where I kind of just let other people decide what it would look like, right? I felt bad asking for what I wanted because I have fairly expensive taste. I just do. I like the finer things. I love finding the finer things on sale for sure. If I can get a great discount on the finer thing, I love that. But I don't want to settle for something less, and so I just won't ask. And if I don't ask, then I never really get what I want. And so I say all of this because it's so important to really ask for what you want. Because not asking, you're already feeling disappointed because you're not getting the thing. But asking, even if you don't get it, you're gonna be okay, right? And so that story that I told about my daughter and her birthday and her not wanting to ask for what she wanted, I was very clear. And I said, listen, I would love to buy you all the things that you want, okay? But I'm going to pick a couple of them. And so if one of those things is really expensive, are you okay getting just one thing? Or would you prefer a bunch of little things? And she sat with it. She was a little taken aback that I would actually have that conversation with her. But she sat with it and she said, you know what, Mom? I think I'd want some of the smaller things. Okay, give me the whole list, babe. I haven't told you what our budget is, but give me the whole list and I'll buy you as much as I can from that list. Is that fair? She was like, yeah. And then immediately she was like, oh, I want this, and 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 I want this. And it just reinvigorated her in that desire, right? If our desires steam out, we settle for mediocrity. If there's nothing that you desire, you're going to settle for mediocrity. It just happens. You'll settle, you'll play small, you'll probably have a fine life, right? But there's this part of you that is craving that more, that bigness, that grandness, that freedom, essentially, to be and do and have all of the things that your heart desires. That starts with asking for what you really want. And I see this play out so many times in people's businesses where let's say they're a new coach or they've started their new business and they're like, I think I'm just gonna charge $50 an hour. And I'm like, what do you really want? And they're like, well, I'd really like $500 an hour, but I don't think anybody's gonna pay me for that. Why not? Well, because I just started. Okay. But you're never going to get the $500 an hour if you don't ever ask for it. Does it feel scary for the very first client messaging you and they're like, what are your prices? And you're like, right? It's terrifying. But you won't ever get that price if you don't ever ask for it. People will not just inherently send you an extra tip because they believe that it was valued at that. If that's your price, that's your price, right? Now, there have been plenty of times where I've done this to myself, where I've said, you know what, I'm gonna offer this for $99, even though I really wanted to offer it for like $222 kind of thing. And you know what's happened? I've gotten the $99 sale and I've been annoyed that it wasn't $222 because I really wanted $222 for it. But I thought, people aren't going to see the value in that. People won't see the value if you don't see the value. So you really have to ask for what you want. Now, this takes kind of building some courage up, okay? So let's say you're starting your business, you're selling your product or your service for, maybe you start at $50. right? That's what you started at. You're like, okay, I can get behind $50. That feels really reasonable, okay? Maybe your goal is $500. What I like to teach people to do is kind of feel out those numbers, right? So if you've spent any time with me, you know that I really strongly believe in letting all of your life be intuitively led. Your body does not lie to you when you pay attention to it, right? If you're getting a headache, it's for a reason. If your back hurts, it's for a reason, right? But sometimes we don't pay attention to that and we just take a medication and move on with our day. That's not going to help. If you are in tune with your body, you feel the little things that are off. All right, I just had this conversation with my 13-year-old yesterday. She said, well, Mom, how do you know if it's right? And I said, I feel it in my body. She said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I usually get this sensation, you know, kind of in my stomach area, and then I'll get a thought associated with that sensation. I said, but I've been fine-tuning it for so long that I can feel the slightest thing that goes off and I figure out what it's related to. Like, I know when I'm out of alignment. And so what I like to do is when I sit down with a client, we're putting together a package or a program or whatever it is that they're working on, and I'll say, okay, what do you want to charge? And immediately they start with something low. They're like, I just want to charge $100 for this. And I'm like, okay, cool. You have to get 100 people to buy that, and then you hit a 10K month. And they're like, oh, well, I know 100 people. Okay. Nevertheless, I said, okay, so $100. I said, what do you really want to charge for that? And they're like, well, I would love if someone paid $750 for it. Cool. Let's find out what is your best price there, right? So $750 is really exciting to you. They're like, yeah, absolutely. I would love if someone spent $1,000 even on that. Like, if someone paid me $1,000 for that, that would feel so good. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, how do you feel about the $100 now? And they're like, well, if I could get 1,000 for it, I don't feel so great about the 100. Okay, good. So let's move up this, right? And you essentially sit with yourself along these different increments to feel the one that feels good, but also exciting, right? Where it makes logical sense to you, but it also lights you up, right? This is where your whole body starts to come into it. So this is where you go, you know what? I could charge $100 for that. That wouldn't make me feel great about it. It wouldn't feel like a fair, energetic exchange. And so maybe I'll charge $500 for it. Okay, cool. Charge $500 for it. And then they go, but can I do that? Yes, you absolutely can. You don't know if someone's going to pay for it until you ask them. So take all the judgment aside, put it all out the window, all the things, right? You cannot judge what somebody else values. But we try to do this all the time. We try to price ourselves in a way that people will get, that they'll understand. But I value some things very differently than other people. My husband, prime example, right? My husband loves to negotiate. Loves to negotiate. Like, he feeds off of it. And I will never forget when we lived in Sicily, we had traveled to Venice. And all I wanted to do in Venice was take one of those gondola rides, right? And they have all of the gondolas lined up in the port. And there are multiple, I don't know what they're called, the guys that steer the gondola. I lost the word. So they are walking around selling their boat ride, their gondola ride, right? And the very first one comes up to my husband and is like, oh, I'll take you, you know, so-and-so for an hour for whatever euro, right? And my husband's like, no. We walked through probably 14 different gondolas, and I had to walk away because I was getting so annoyed, because to me, the gondola ride was worth whatever that 200 euro. It was absolutely worth it to me. I had no problem spending 200 euro on the gondola ride that they had talked about initially, because that's what it was worth to me. My husband, on the other hand, was like, it's not worth 200 euro to me. It's worth whatever, right? And so I walked away, he managed to negotiate somebody down to, I don't know, 60 euro or something, right? Like, he loved that he got this incredible deal on the gondola ride. I am not that person. If I'm going to spend the money on it, it's because I value it at that price, right? So I cringe at this thought of negotiating, but my husband loves it. He loves to negotiate because he sees things valued differently than I do, right? So that is just a prime example where you cannot judge what somebody values. Someone's going to value something more than somebody else, and there's nothing that you and I can do about that. But you cannot get what you don't ask for. So I really want to encourage you to start asking for what it is that you really want, even if it's small, right? Even if it's simply like, you know what, kids, I really want you to empty the dishwasher. If you don't ask them, they can't say yes. Can they say no to you? Yeah, they can go, oh my God, Mom, I don't want to empty the dishwasher. They can absolutely do that, right? But they can't do it if you don't ask. This is the same thing in our romantic relationships as well. I can sit there and hope all day long that my husband will do X, Y, and Z. But if I don't ever ask him, how is he supposed to know that I want those things? He cannot read my mind, thank God, right? Because there are moments where I'd be like, right? So you have to ask for it. You cannot get what you don't ask for. So I really want to encourage you today. Just start asking for what you want. You'll be surprised what people will say yes to, right? Some of your asks are not such a big stretch. Some people are like, oh my God, yeah, I would totally do that for you. Absolutely. But we get so wrapped up in this idea and this preconditioning that we shouldn't ask for it because it's too much, right? So I'm sending you lots of love today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would love if you had any other questions, any comments for me. I would love to do another topic for you on this, answer some other questions that you might have. But as always, I'm sending you so much love. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.